The Hangar Z Podcast welcomes retired Los Angeles Police Department SWAT Sergeant Chuck Buttitta. You are one of those people that made it to 20 David. It's a small club. In the history of LAPD SWAT, there's 10, maybe, we think, approximately people that have held that position. Describe 20 David's position and then tell us about the badge tradition.
So the 20 David position is pretty much the lead sergeant. There's a badge that all the 20 Davids wears currently. The badge is number 4154. And for LAPD SWAT, that's a very significant set of numbers.
In this 3-episode series, we're honored to sit down with retired LAPD SWAT veteran Sergeant Chuck Buttitta. Over the course of 4 decades, Chuck was a true customer of law enforcement aviation units, working alongside aircrews in countless ways. His career path spanned patrol, narcotics, SWAT operator, sniper, SWAT supervisor, and even search and rescue in retirement. Chuck's distinguished service is marked by numerous accolades, including the Medal of Valor, 2 police stars, the Police Commission Unit Citation, the Police Meritorious Unit Citation, 2 Bureau Commendations, more than 150 minor commendations, the 2009 Top Cop Award, and in retirement, the Ventura County Citizen Medal of Merit for an ice snow rescue that Chuck was part of. Chuck joins us to share the customer's perspective on aviation support, particularly during SWAT and K-9 operations. It's a critical conversation because aviation units exist to serve and protect those on the ground, our officers, deputies, troopers, agents, and ultimately the communities we all safeguard. In episode 3, we shift to a topic deeply important to both Chuck and this podcast: remembering our fallen officers. Chuck reflects on how remembrance must go beyond words and into action. One powerful example is the Police Unity Tour, which both Chuck and Jack participated in many times. We'll talk about how this life-changing experience honors those we've lost, how you can get involved, and why carrying their memory forward is one of the most meaningful things we can do. We hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we did. Thank you again to all our sponsors and followers. We appreciate you very much. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave us a review. Thank you to our sponsors: Metro Aviation Incorporated, Canyon Aero Connect, and Airbus.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z Podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like you're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, threw the shotgun, threw something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
It's time for your Heli Life giveaway buzzword. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's buzzword is helmet. Visit contest.verticalhelicast.com to enter the buzzword.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor magazine. Today, I'm your host, Jack Shanley, and with me is the creator of the Hangar Z Podcast, John Gray. John, how's it going?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good. I'm excited about today. This is going to be a little unique in many ways. We're trying something different based on some themes that we have in mind and that we'd like to talk about. And we've got a perfect guest for the 2 themes that we want to talk about. The themes are the customer. You know, we talk about the customer all the time, and it's neat to get the perspective from those customers now and then. We've had K-9 people on, we've had, we talked to some patrol people and about their patrol time with their support, but the person that's joining us today has a lot of years in different roles as a customer. And then we're going to switch gears after that theme and switch to remembering our fallen officers, something we care deeply about. And again, our guest has some very unique perspective on that and has made that a big part of his life. I don't think that's an overstatement at all. It was a big part of his life for quite a while, and remembering the fallen. So without further ado, I'll introduce Chuck Buttitta. Chuck Buttitta from retired Los Angeles Police Sergeant, retired 20 David from SWAT, which we'll get to in a few minutes. Chuck, welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks, John. It's great to be here. And I hope I give some insight to being a customer for you guys as pilots and work in air support.
Well, you will. 31 years of being a customer, Chuck. I mean, that's a lot. And you had air assets available to you for every job you had. Some of the jobs didn't require it. Others required it heavily. Certainly patrol, certainly SWAT. And it's important for air crews to remember why we're there. We exist because of the customer. And if the customer's unhappy, or if the customer's disappointed, or if the customer's pissed off, that's not good. That's not good. So I think it's important to get this perspective. So let's start just by using that 31 years of experience. What's your overall thoughts about air support?
Air support has been a game changer for law enforcement. It's a force multiplier, and it provides safety, it provides coverage and information. And for me, working either, I actually used air support in narcotics and in patrol. I didn't work patrol that long, but I was working a lot of specialized units, K9 and SWAT. And as you know, Jack, K9, almost every single call was utilized with air support, having that air assets over us and helping us coordinate and bring some calm and some logic to the searching for the suspects that we were looking for.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, definitely force multiplier. Our department, the Los Angeles Police Department, was very dependent on air support. And I've told people this for years. We were spoiled. You just said it with K9. I mean, when I talk to K9 handlers, I tell them, yeah, I had a helicopter over me 95+% of the time on a K9 search. They just shake their heads. They just can't believe it. But it's true. It's true. We were very spoiled and very fortunate to have that. In addition to that, though, you worked seven years as a SWAT operator and then went back again, and 5 more years as a supervisor. That was a different aspect of air support with SWAT. It wasn't the pursuits so much and the foot pursuits, although they did happen. It was more specialized and more targeted for operations. Talk about that for a few minutes.
Well, the initial use of air support during my SWAT career was on high-risk warrants, where we had the ability to plan. And it would start off with, we didn't have drones back in the late 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
So it started off with being able to use the helicopter to give us an aerial view of our target. And we would take pictures, and the air crews were fantastic in not keying the subject that something was taking place near their residence or was going to take place near the house or the business. We'd be off a little bit, offset. But then through photography, we were able to take those pictures, come back to the station, and develop a plan. Develop a plan for containment, for entry purposes, and providing safety not only for the officers, but also for the people that we were initiating the search warrant on.
Yeah, very valuable, very valuable. And for those that are tasked to go and take photos, something Chuck mentioned there is very important, especially for in an area where there's not a lot of helicopter traffic. You can give that away pretty easily by circling a bad guy's location. Now, in some of the places that you were doing warrants and we were taking the pictures, they were used to helicopters, but we were still very conscious of that. And we would tell the photographer, you got 2 orbits. get it done. And we got good at knowing where they wanted to be, how wide, how high, all that. And then we would go 3-4 blocks away and we would orbit again over nothing for 10 minutes, just to throw that off, just to make them think, well, I don't think they were looking at me. They're looking at something else. And that's a little thing, maybe to some, but I took that very seriously because I didn't want to be the one that tipped some guy off for you, and your D team to go in. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the one additional thing that cameras, the new camera technology is added, is this extra layer or this extra ability for us to gather those images from a greater distance.
Yeah.
Not only photos, but video now too. And you can get a lot more detail. I remember some of the operations asking us, hey, can you get a plate for us? Plates are in the back of the house or something. I'm like, we can, but we're going to have to get pretty close. And the odds of us burning a house at that point is pretty high.
Yeah. But
now you take the camera equipment and the technology we have, and it's much more user friendly, and it's just much easier, much more success comes out of those types of photo and video missions than we used to have, just because of the technology. But to your point, Chuck, it's critically important when we're doing these operations to prevent what we're talking about from happening, burning the target, tipping them off that something's about to happen. So
right.
It is a good conversation.
There are two other primary elements in SWAT where air support was utilized. We'll talk about the easy one first, and that's a typical barricaded suspect inside a residence. The helicopter is usually there when SWAT arrives, and we have to communicate with where we're going to put our containment teams and safe access to the 4 various sides of the structure that we're trying to contain. And then quite often we have to ask them to, leave or to get a wider orbit so that we can either communicate inside the residence if they're not answering their phone and so forth, and also so that we can hear what's going on in the area. The other aspect which Jack was a major contributor to was what we call aerial platform shooting. And that was the snipers utilizing the air assets to potentially neutralize a vehicle, a suspect that is armed or something in a high rise out in the open where you can't reach out and get them with patrol assets or anything like that. So we did a lot of training, and Jack can talk about the ability of the pilots and the air crews to put us in these great positions. For the snipers, we were generally when I started with this back in the late 80s, early 90s, we were inside the helicopter shooting out the door. That progressed when we got to the Air Speciales, I believe, Jack. That progressed to shooting off the pods or the outside the helicopter. And as a sniper doing that, one, it's an e-ticket ride because you're attached to the helicopter with a web runner and a carabiner. And for those that don't know, that web runner is good for about 4,000 pounds of tensile strength. And that runs through your mind as, you could slide off this thing, but meanwhile, you're trying to sight in your target and try and get the best shot off, keeping in mind all the other surroundings, the background, and the situation. That was huge. And I tell you, the way that has progressed, I retired in 2011, and I know it has progressed with better weaponry, better sighting systems than the way we used to do it. And it's fantastic. And it's a capability and ability and a skill and a tool that is in the toolbox of the commanding officers that are making decisions out there in the field. Does this reach to the level that this is close to our last resort to being able to stop a deadly threat?
Yeah. And the pods that Chuck's talking about are the Tyler Special Operations platforms. They're attached to the skids. Hollywood uses them quite a bit in TV shows and movies, but we've had those for a long time. But that was a game changer, and it is an e-ticket. Having sat on them a few times myself, not shooting at targets, but just going along for the ride. But talk about the coordination between shooter and air crew, and how that was important to you as a shooter and as a member of SWAT.
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
During the beginning of my era of shooting from the helicopters, we didn't have audio communications.
Yeah.
It was discussed before you went up what we were going to do, what the pilots were going to do to attempt to have the aircraft in a position so that our rounds are not getting anywhere near the front of that aircraft, that we're coming in at an angle at the target, and how long we were going to be there. We can talk about pop-ups. So in Los Angeles, we have many high-rises. We were concerned about historical shootings throughout the United States where suspects had high ground, and the Texas Tower incident and others. And how could we go up and stop the deadly threat utilizing the helicopter and snipers? And so what we would train with would be this, the helicopter coming in low, popping up on top of a rooftop, giving us enough time to take a couple shots and then off. That has progressed now to where there's communication, so they can actually talk between each other. And obviously that has improved the skill, improved the opportunity for us to do the job that was needing to be done.
Now, LAPD SWAT is a large enough unit. How many SWAT members are there in D team?
60. So currently it's 2 lieutenants, 6 supervisors, 2 lieutenants, 6 sergeants, and 60 officers.
So because of the size, of a unit like that, SWAT decided a long time ago that not everybody was going to specialize in the airborne platform shooting, and it decided to use the snipers. Talk about that decision and why that was a good decision for your unit.
Well, I think it comes down to the weaponry. We have a number of different cadres, snipers, crisis negotiation, climbers, and what I used to call the gadget cadre.
Yeah.
But the snipers, had the long rifles. Before the North Hollywood shootout, not everybody had a long rifle that was able to reach out and touch somebody. So snipers were utilized. It was a small group that had the ability and time. And in Los Angeles, we're blessed that SWAT's a full-time job. And it's in the early days, we had crime suppression responsibilities also. But as activity picked up, we went to full-time either training or deployment. So snipers would train every 2 weeks doing square range sniper shooting, or out in some other areas doing some different type of trainings. But then we also we made the decision with air support and their support to go ahead and do aerial platform shooting, and we did that every 2 weeks also.
Yeah. That was important to do that every 2 weeks.
Oh, it was.
What I was going to mention was you talk about the training cycle that you're a part of every 2 weeks, going up and being a part of the aerial platform shooting, which I think is critically important. As Ontario was developing our airborne use of force program, initially we looked at bringing SWAT officers on board and using them as our primary shooters. The problem or the difference we had in Ontario was Ontario's SWAT team was not full-time at that time and didn't have the opportunity to bring the SWAT operators up to get that aerial perspective on the frequency that you're describing. So we went up on an early mission after we had kind of been training in this for a while, and the feedback that we had gotten from our operator that we had selected to use was that, you know, everything tactics wise was great, but he had a hard time picking up the suspect in the backyard of this residence because he wasn't used to seeing things from an airborne perspective. And that's a different way of seeing things. I know as an early TFO, that was challenging as well. You know, you see things from the ground, you know, your whole life, and now you go up in a helicopter and you're tasked with seeing things in a different way. So we realized, you know, maybe using aircrew members that are used to seeing the airborne perspective was a better way to go. And that's ultimately what we did. But what you point out is great. If you have the opportunity to take your snipers or your operators up and get used to that airborne perspective, I think that's a really, really effective way of bringing them into the operation and deploying like you described.
Absolutely. You know, the first couple times up in the helicopter, and you know you're coming in, you're looking in the area, and it's like, I don't see it. What am I looking at? I don't see it.
Yeah.
When it's, you know, just a metal target or a paper target out there. As you flew and shot more often, you were starting to pick up the individual, because just like you say, John, you're looking at it from a diagonal rather than a head-on perspective, and you know you have to be aware of that, and your time to shoot is very minimal,
right?
Because of the speed of the helicopter, the threat that person is, what below you. And you have to remember, you have the air crew that is a threat. He's probably not pointing his weapon at the guy on the side or even know that there's a person at the side. He's pointing at the front of that helicopter.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. In a range type scenario, training range scenario where you're shooting at a paper target or a static target, it's easy to pick up right as you come in because we're all used to seeing paper targets. But once you have a dynamic target that's moving around and it isn't a white piece of paper, it's much harder to pick up, you know? So I love that you guys did that. That's a great way to, again, bring the sniper and the SWAT operator into that program.
The other thing that we did also, John, was we created scenarios. The norm was to go up to the Nike missile site and the old abandoned Nike missile site and do our shooting. However, regularly there would be scenario-based training, and that really helped with getting the SWAT operators getting their eyes ready for moving things, and it helped us too to explain to them, you know, where it is. It's one thing as a TFO to tell your partner, the pilot, where to navigate to. It's another thing to now describe what that sniper that's outside the aircraft needs to look at. Hey, do you see this? Yes. Just to the left of that, you see the yard with the palm trees. Yes, he's in that yard. Got it. I mean, it was kind of like talking to ground units when you're walking them in, but the difference was that your sniper is at the same level as you are. It's actually easier in some ways to describe that, because you don't have to think about, well, what's the ground officer looking at? Because that's different. Whereas the sniper is looking at the same thing as you, the same angle, same distances, same elevation. And but that was a big thing. And that is one of the pluses, John, of where TFOs end up being the shooters, especially on departments where the SWAT team's not full-time, isn't training a lot. This worked for LA. I mean, it worked really well, but other places have had to adjust that to what you're talking about, just like Ontario did. And it's fine. In some ways, it makes it easier. In some ways, it has its challenges as well. There is no perfect way.
Right. San Bernardino County has developed, San Bernardino County and Texas DPS, you know, essentially a very similar program, but they've developed, I think, the model in the country for the way airborne use of force is deployed. They've come up with some really interesting protocols. So I think for folks that are interested in looking at how to improve the program they've got, or looking for a footprint or a recipe to start your own program, I'd reach out to those agencies and get their SOPs. But the one piece that I want to touch on briefly, Jack, is you talked about communication from the pilot to the shooter. Now with Axis technologies and wired communication abilities as well, that the opposite flow of communication is important too. That shooter, whether it's a TFO or a SWAT operator, has to be able to describe things in the way that the aircrew understands, just like you had talked about. And that's why it's important that, like Chuck, you had brought up, that you got a chance to go up and fly very frequently. Being able to accurately and efficiently describe what it is you're seeing and where it's at. So the pilot, the TFO, whoever's aboard the aircraft knows exactly what you're saying and what that means. Saying there's a bad guy right there doesn't mean a whole lot to us because right there is everywhere. But if you can efficiently say, like Jack said, see those two palm trees, right between those two palm trees, he's standing, he's wearing a green jacket or something. That is a huge upgrade in communication, and it's critically important for us to be able to go pilot to TFO to shooter or vice versa. The communication piece of that is really, really important.
Yeah, as we progressed with the ability to at least hear directions from the air crew, they would even tell us to cease fire because they were just about ready to make a move and they didn't want those rounds going off, especially on the pop-ups when we would pop up, engage, and then drop off. And you realize how important that is, that communication.
Yeah. And in training too. I mean, we knew where we were about to fly to, and that if you continue shooting, it's going to create an issue with what the background is, or because we're about to make that turn, or we're about to nose it over or whatever. And we always, for training, we'd say fire at will and cease fire. Those came from inside the cockpit, those commands. And I thought that worked pretty good, and it enhanced safety, especially at training. And it created the atmosphere that in the real world that could happen too, where, I see something that maybe the shooter is looking at crosshairs, but I'm seeing a bigger picture, and I know what I'm about to do with that aircraft. And I tell them, cease fire. And they're going to trust us because we've been training that way twice a month for years. This is a good conversation. Conversation. I'm glad we went down that route.
Real quick, Jack, before we go any further, I want to get your input on what your takeaways were from riding as a, you weren't a shooter, but you sat on the Tyler bench as you approached the target and saw and felt what that profile was like. How did that improve your ability as a pilot to deliver for the customer that is in that seat to engage the target?
Oh, I appreciated the situation so much more. Number one, when you go fast in that helicopter, you're out on that bench and it's 95 degrees outside, it feels like it's the middle of winter sometimes if you're really moving. And I remember having shooters out there that were shivering. I mean, shivering. I can remember, I think it was Troy Thomas and Ken Pickard. I took to a golf tournament one time. We're gonna land with them on the pods. We're gonna land on the fairway, and they're gonna deliver the golf ball for the police celebrity golf tournament to the chief that he's gonna use. So we get up there, and now we're on hold. And they said, "Oh yeah, don't come in yet." Well, you said 08:30. They said, "Yeah, it's gonna be more like 09." Those guys, they wanted to kill me. And we ended up landing on a rooftop. We just went to a rooftop and sat down because they were freezing. Their teeth were chattering, and I felt terrible. But that's important. I understood that because I had been out on those benches a few times and said, "Wow, this is interesting." I mean, I see now why this is important, or why communicating this ceasefire is important, and why we limit it to 60 knots with few exceptions. There are exceptions to that rule. But for the most part, we limited it to 60 knots because of comfort. And I mean, the wind just hitting you. There's no windbreak. It's your eye protection, and that's it. So Chuck, do you remember being out and being cold a few times?
Thank you to our sponsor, Canyon Aero Connect. Canyon Aero Connect has been a trusted leader in airborne law enforcement communication since Paul Wolfsburg introduced the first flight phone in 1970. While our name has evolved, our commitment to innovation and quality remains strong. Contact us today at CanyonAeroConnect.com to explore our latest mission-critical solutions.
Yeah, that for me, the elements were difficult. Not just the temperature, but you think about, when we've all sat on a range in a nice, box and we're shooting and stuff like that. The weather's nice. You have a good brace position. You see the targets in the crosshairs. You take your breaths, and it's a nice squeeze, and off the round goes. Well, it isn't like that on the helicopter at all. You're up there, you have the vibration from the helicopter, you have the wind, you have the temperature, you have the movement of the helicopter. Your sights look like this.
Yeah,
they're going like that. And you're trying to compensate for that, and do your good shooting position and bracing as best as possible. I mean, it started off
and negative lead.
And lead if they're moving. Yeah. It started off with, when we were inside the helicopter, we would hang a web runner from I don't know what the roof of the helicopter is called, but the roof of the helicopter, the ceiling, and put the stock of the rifle in there to try to hold it still and stuff. Yep. And as we got smarter and smarter, we also learned that you should not have anything touch the barrel because that's an issue too. To the point to now, and actually, if you look over my shoulder there, you can see a picture, and that's Robert James Cottle, sniper, LAPD 3+1, who is in a position on the pod with a higher tech weapon in a good position, good platform, and engaging targets.
Yeah. That's a good photo. I have that photo somewhere as well. It's a great picture of RJ. This is really good, because there's a lot of people in aircrews that get approached by their management or by SWAT or by whoever and say, hey, we want to do this. Let's close this up by talk about crawl, walk, run with shooting from the helicopter, and why that's important for both aircrew and shooter.
Well, it's starting off with the basics. First of all, just crawl, being on the outside of the helicopter, getting used to the movement and seeing your targets. And we would start off almost like with a strafing run, coming into a target a little bit at a cant, so that the shooter on the side of the helicopter had the ability to see. And we would use really large targets on a fence up there at the Nike base, and trying to see how good is your accuracy. Walking would have been somewhere around the area of coming in on the pop-ups, just popping up, spending the time, how much time do you have, and then falling off, because you don't want to make the helicopter or the sniper a target for the suspect up on top of the roof. And then run would be coming in full speed, limited amount of time, and it could be on the pop-ups or it could be doing an orbit, lots of movement with a static target. And from there, we went on to run, where we trained to engage vehicles. Yeah. We did a lot of testing with how do we disable a vehicle? What rounds would work well to disable a vehicle, to try to get it to stop if it's in a extremely threatening position moving throughout the city of Los Angeles. We came up with some tactics for that. We came up with some munitions for that. They have that skill. Jack can probably tell you about, we would actually tow a vehicle, a old beat up jalopy. We'd tow a vehicle and we'd come in with the air crew and the sniper and engage that vehicle to try to get it to stop, or to stop the deadly threat.
That was one of the most fun training days of my career. I remember it well at Mojave. We did it a couple times, but at Mojave Airport, my son at the time was just about to go in the Army. He was an EMT. And he was our EMT that day. He'll never forget it. He was in the armor watching us fly over the car being towed. He was in the armor that was towing it while you guys are shooting various rounds and the vehicle, as I recall, it was running. The engine was running so that you could see if it stopped the engine or not. And we won't go into detail of what we found that day, but out in the public, but I can tell you that there was a variety of rounds fired that day, and some worked a lot better than others at stopping that car. It was a great learning experience for everybody. That was a fun day.
That's where the training comes in. So when the real situation presents itself in the city, we can allow the commanders to know that we have the ability to do this, this, and this. We cannot do this, this, and this. Yeah. Sometimes we have to say, we can't do that.
Exactly. That's an important thing. We've talked about that in the podcast a lot, huh, John?
Yeah. I would say in the spirit of, we talk about not reinventing the wheel. If your agency is looking at either improving their current program or developing a program, and your questions surround these things we're talking about, reach out. All these agencies like LAPD that have spent a lot of time and effort to research this information would be more than happy and willing to provide that information to an agency that's wanting to improve their product and how they're training. So yeah, this is a great conversation. Love to hear, the evolution, Chuck, that you experienced as an operator and how that has progressed in your time. And it's continuing to be an effective tool in our time. And, the one thing that I know is, having trained and flown these missions is it's a profile and a program that takes a lot of effort, and a lot of thought needs to go into the program and its development. So if you've got the time and the ability to pour into those programs and really think about what you're doing and really train, highly encourage folks to develop those programs.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Chuck, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. D-Team, SWAT, is just like air support. We share everything. If an agency comes to LAPD SWAT and says, hey, what are you guys doing with this? They tell them. They show them the policies, procedures, practices, and tell them what they have discovered. Very open, just like air support. We've given people our manuals for years. Is that accurate, Chuck?
Absolutely. And we see other agencies and seek their advice and skills that they have. LAPD is, and I'm presuming, Jack, in my opinion, one of the top law enforcement agencies in the United States or in the world, but recognize that other agencies have skills, knowledge, they've trained themselves in aspects and elements of SWAT tactics and law enforcement that we want to tap and utilize.
Yep.
We're one family. We're all doing the same mission.
Yeah.
And we are not only with law enforcement, but we work and share with the military, and the military asks us for advice. There's a very long history in LAPD SWAT of working with the military asking us for training on room clearing and urban techniques, and us going to them for specific training on aspects that they were experts in.
Yeah, that goes back to the very beginning, doesn't it? With LAPD SWAT, where they worked with hand in hand with military, with information going both ways. But a lot of it, in the early days, was going from LAPD SWAT to SEAL Team and Delta and places like that, because they hadn't developed their skills in the close quarters stuff and entries. That wasn't their cup of tea. That isn't what they were doing. Well, now it's what they do all the time, but a lot of that base knowledge was from you guys.
Yeah. Vietnam was jungle warfare. Yeah. And then when we came to the Middle East, it started to become urban. And LAPD SWAT worked very tight with the Marine Corps, and that expanded into the other agencies within the Department of Defense, or now the Department of War. And it still does. Yeah. We work together, and we share knowledge, share skills, share ability. I was there during the time that the military came to us and asked for training in CQB, close quarters combat, because they weren't used to going into cities and clearing a building for suspects or deadly threats. And so we taught them, and they took that and ran with it, and they developed training. They developed training sites, and they allowed us, LAPD SWAT, and also other agencies to go train there. So God bless the military for working with the city of Los Angeles and all police departments for making this a better country.
Yeah, that happened regularly. Not only the ground folks, but the air folks, the Special Operations Aviation Regiment, Task Force 160 guys brought customers, many times SEALs and Delta, and sometimes Rangers, and they'd come to LA a couple times a year and work. And SWAT and air support were their contacts. And I was honored to be part of that. Steve Scowen and I worked together a lot over the years. Steve would handle the ground folks. I was handling the air folks, coordinating training, urban training, realistic urban training, a RUT. And they'd come in and ask us questions. And we always thought, wow, these guys are asking us questions. That's amazing. But it wasn't the norm, and they needed that realism of urban combat. It was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. I know you learned a lot. I learned a lot from them over the years.
Yeah. Our whole climbing cadre, you guys, air support had the heavy lift Huey helicopter that we were counting on to be able to get us on top of buildings so that we didn't have to come from the ground floor up. We had the ability to go from the top floor down, or maybe a side patio in and stuff like that. City of Los Angeles had some issues with being able to maintain that helicopter. So we reached out to a SEAL team, and we started a climbing cadre where they taught us how to do mountaineering, how to climb.
Yeah.
And we transferred those skills over to climbing buildings. And then we would also bring in these special units like SEAL team, and we find training buildings to train on. And you talk about puckering up, being on the skid of a helicopter, puckering up using suction cups to climb them up, build high-rise buildings in Los Angeles is another area.
You're crazier than I thought, Chuck. And I knew you were crazy. Some of the stuff I know that you've done, especially that climbing cadre. You guys went to Yosemite regularly, and climbed there. Your skills in the climbing cadre were amazing. And we're going to get to it here in a few minutes of what you're doing now in retirement. And those skills really come into play in your search and rescue life now, life after LAPD. And we'll touch on that here in a few. But let's go backwards now. And what year did you come on the job?
1980.
1980.
The class of 480.
480. So it probably seems like yesterday, but it's a lifetime ago. But it's a long time ago. What was the major influence? I don't think I've ever talked to you about this. What drew you to the Los Angeles Police Department?
Okay, first of all, I presume no firefighters are watching this podcast.
Okay, that's false. There's three.
There's three. Okay.
Well, yeah, no, there's some, but go ahead.
So
speak freely, Chuck.
From high school on, I wanted to be a firefighter. I ended up getting my college education because I couldn't get into a department anywhere. I have an older brother that was on the Los Angeles Police Department, and he was a D3, which is a head lead detective for robbery homicide division. And I was trying, I couldn't get in any fire department anywhere in California area. And he said, "Hey, stop screwing around. Go down, take the test,
get in the right
and
line,
become a police officer." So there was a history of, my father had gas stations in the San Fernando Valley, and a lot of people that worked for him, kids that worked for him, ended up becoming police officers. So I said, okay, I'll go take it. I took the test, got in, went through the academy, and my eyes opened up. I was a sheltered kid from the San Fernando Valley, but my eyes opened up. It was the service that I mean, in my heart and in my mind, I just wanted to help. How can I help?
Yep.
I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I knew my physical skills and ability to handle situations. I thought I could help. So on graduation day at the Los Angeles Police Academy, you go through, you get your badge and stuff like that. And then at nighttime, there's a party. Well, I came home to my apartment in the San Fernando Valley that day, open up the mailbox, and I have a letter from Ventura County Fire Department accepting me.
Oh my gosh.
So I was so hyped up on police work. I said, no, I'm going to be a cop in LA.
Wow.
And that's how it started.
Ventura had their chance. They missed it by that much.
Yeah.
That's incredible. The letter's in the mailbox. Oh, I did notice that when I asked you some of your bio that you studied fire science. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I didn't realize that was such a big goal prior to the police department.
Back in the 70s and 80s, it was extremely difficult to get into fire departments.
Oh, yeah. Yes, no doubt. It's still challenging on the good departments, really challenging. Give us so out of the academy, you did something very unique that a very, very small number of people that have been Los Angeles police officers have done. And I believe it was right out of the academy or soon thereafter. The juvenile narcotics program. Tell us about that.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 160 plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
After graduation, I was assigned to a division, West Valley Division in the San Fernando Valley. A little disappointing because it was a Valley slow division. I wanted to be down in South Central LA and stuff like that. But went to work there, started learning, and within like 2.5, 3 months, I'm out working morning watch, and I get a call, hey, go see the watch commander. So I knew I probably screwed up on something. So I go in the watch commander's office, and he says, hey, Chuck, and this was like a Thursday. He says, Monday, you need to take your hat, your books, all your uniforms and stuff like that. You need to report to this address. And he hands me a piece of paper. And I'm like, oh, shit, I'm fired. So, I leave that night. First, I'm on the phone with my brother. Hey, this is what happened. What'd I do? What do you think? And he's like, oh, no. He says, I think you got selected for something.
Yep.
So I show up at a church in downtown Los Angeles, and a couple other guys are coming in. I don't know anybody. And we go inside, we're sitting around, we're all looking at each other, and what now turns out to be a Detective 3 comes in and says, you guys have all been selected to work the juvenile buy program. You're going to spend the next 2 months learning how to be a high school kid again, and then you're going to get assigned to a high school. So, hair, lot longer hair, grungy, somewhat, not that grungy, but, I used to look, I guess, younger than I am. So we had a great time, good camaraderie between all the other buy officers and myself. And I got assigned to Fairfax High School. So I went back to Fairfax High School in the second semester of 1981. And I was stunned with the amount of narcotics that was on the campus.
Oh my God.
And I did my job, a lot of great stories, a lot of challenging. And when I mentioned that I utilized the air assets then, towards the end of my time in the school, my challenge was always to find the suppliers, work your way to the top. were concerned about the kids selling at that time the joints or, acid, psilocybin, mushrooms. There wasn't PCP, but there was some cocaine. But back then it was powder cocaine. It wasn't rock. All that was being sold in the school. Well, I was able to work my way on a larger deal, and it was marijuana, but we were in the Pounds area. And the way that this worked out was you're not supposed to do what they call trip with the subjects. You're not supposed to travel with them. But to make this deal, I was going to have to travel with a suspect to go to the dealer's place because they were protective. I was protective, had all that kind of stuff going on. So we came up with a plan, and I had a helicopter that worked over top of me so that the crews that were tailing me could keep track of where I was and keep me safe. And that gave me a lot of peace knowing that I had a helicopter above me watching me so that if I had to bail or got into a bad situation, that he would be able to that air crew would be able to direct my backup in.
Wow.
It all worked out great. The buy went down, and I'm thankful that it all worked out because that suspect, that individual, was in a pre-med position at UCLA and would have been a dentist.
Oh, jeez.
Jeez.
You got him. Wow. And John, just so you know, this is our second 21 Jump Street guest, Manny Dickerson.
Manny.
He also did this program. That's great. And that's another thing I didn't know, Chuck, until I was reading this and go, oh my God, I didn't know you were in the high school buy program. That's great.
I'm always curious when you came in as a new student, or any of the students that you meet, were they skeptical of the fact that you were a new student?
Oh, I was narked from day one. It's a challenge. Nobody on campus knows that there's a narcotics officer there. So I would go to all my classes at first and just start the socialization, and doesn't take too long, a week or two, you start knowing who the dealers are dealing to the kids within the campus itself. And that expanded to outside the campus because a lot of the dealing took place in these blocks around Fairfax High School. And of course, these dealers would come in, they knew when the kids were on recess and lunch and stuff like that. But if we have time, I have kind of a funny story.
Yeah.
I was getting narked, and I was getting a couple of deals and stuff like that. And, nothing really exaggerated, but I thought I could do better because there was people I couldn't get in. I was getting shunned somewhat. So two things happened. One, I was in I was in the classes, and then I'd start missing classes because I was trying to make connections and stuff like that. And I was in a bathroom one day, and my history teacher came into the bathroom, and we're standing next to each other, and he turns his head to me and says, I don't know what you are, but one thing I know is you're not a student. And I walked out, and I said, oh, man, I'm burned. So I went back and I told my handler, who was a detective, what the situation was. He says, well, what are you doing in the class? I said, well, it's after lunch, so I don't show up very much. And, I don't take the test. And he says, well, take a test and pass it. So, okay. So I start going to the class. I go to take the test. I still can't pass it. So
it's great.
And then the other story is I'm behind across the street from Fairfax High School is on Melrose. It's all businesses. Behind the businesses is an alley. And the drug dealers and the students would go into this abandoned car spray booth, and they had it set up it was a smoking room and a dope room and stuff like that. And the deals would take place in there. So they had a couch set up and all that. So I was hanging out there one day, and I worked my way into the spray booth and was, BSing with people and so forth. and trying to make a buy. And all of a sudden I hear, I hear the Impalas coming down the alley, skidding and stuff like that. The kids, everybody runs outside. I know it's the cops. I'm not going to run. So I'm walking kind of briskly, and police officer, undercover police officer, narcotics officer grabs me, and they get about 10 of us, and they put us in cars and they take us to Wilshire Police Station. My brother works Wilshire Police Station as a detective. I'm handcuffed and they're walking me through the detective room. I know where his desk is at, and I'm looking over at his desk and he's not there. I'm like, great. So we have these interview rooms in the police stations, and they put us all, this is old school. They put us all into this interview room, and it was also used as a cot room. So it had a desk and it had a couple of cots in it. So all the kids are in there. Everybody's, we're laughing and joking and making fun of the cops and stuff like that. Meanwhile, the kids are taking all the dope out that they have on their bodies and under their clothes and stuff like that, in their backpacks. I don't think they had backpacks on, but they're hiding them. They're hiding the drugs in the desks, under the mattress and stuff like that. So one at a time, they're pulling people out to interview them, and they don't pull me out till I'm like third to the last. The detective pulls me out, puts me in another room, and starts giving me the riot act, right? I says, "Hey, hold on. I'm a police officer." And he's like, he doesn't understand. No, you just don't be a little turd, right? Blah, blah, blah. And I says, no, I'm a Los Angeles police officer. I'm the narc at the school. You need to call Detective Long at this number, blah, blah, blah. So he goes, just a minute. He goes out, comes back, and I am so sorry. He called him, right? I am so sorry, blah. What can we do? So I had a whole cover story. And in the long run, I had, by the way, one of the ways that I utilized the cast on my arm. So my story was that my dad was a veteran from Vietnam. My mom wasn't around. He was very strict and blah, 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 and kind of beat me and stuff like that. So we had a detective from narcotics play my father and come pick me up at the police station with all the other parents.
Oh, cool.
And after that, I was able to
left and right.
I was able to get, my credibility went way up in the drug trade in the area. And
did the history teacher also sell you dope?
Never. Not at that school, but other schools. It wasn't only, I did not personally buy a weapon, but one of my partners at another school, we bought a sawed-off shotgun on campus.
Wow.
So I know
that's wild.
I know marijuana is a gateway drug and stuff like that, and it's controversial about whether it's a big deal or not. But I didn't want my high school kids, I don't want my grandkids being tempted with any of that.
Yeah. Man, you just got to see the inside scoop on that. That is really cool. And like I said, that's a small cadre of people over the years, and when you come across them, they always have great stories. So do you, Chuck. That's great. Just give us the kind of the bullet point thumbnail sketch of where you went from there through your career up to 20 David.
From juvenile narcotics, I went back to patrol in Hollywood Division as a police officer too. Funny story with that is assigned to morning watch, and I'm nervous because I do not know how to do a report anymore. I don't know how to get anything done in the police car. We didn't have computers in the cars. Everything was paperwork back then. And I'm sweating it because now I'm in Hollywood Division, one of the pristine divisions in Los Angeles. And it's morning watch where all the really good patrol officers work, and the older, saltier guys are in roll call. And they call, Buttitta and Harvey on whatever it was, A45. And I'm like, oh my God, he's sitting in the back. He's the old time guy. It's like, I'm screwed. I get I get the car ready. I got the shotgun ready. I'm standing out by the car and I'm like, how am I going to tell him? I don't know how to do a log. I don't know how to do a crime report. I know nothing. So he comes in. I said, hey, Jim, I got to tell you something. I don't know how to do this, blah, blah, blah. He says, that's great, kid. He says, I've been in communications for the last 7 years. I don't know how to do any of it either.
Perfect duo.
So we struggled together.
Oh, that's
From there,
great.
eventually, I ended up in a couple of specialized unit of Boulevard Task Force. I ended up being one of the original prostitution enforcement detail officers.
Yeah.
In Hollywood. That led to a vice position.
Yeah.
I worked vice, and my wife has said, you worked a lot of prostitution stuff. What's going on there?
But not by choice.
Yeah. From there, I made, to work vice, you have to be a police officer 3, which is a training officer. I did a little stint in patrol with some trainees and then into vice. And from vice, I was fortunate enough to be accepted to go work Metropolitan Division, which is where SWAT and K9 is housed. Went to a platoon. It's a crime suppression platoon in Metro. A year after that, position came up, an opening for people to apply for SWAT. And I was like, that sounds like fun. I remember the SWAT guys at my academy classes and stuff like that. I said, I wonder if I could do that. So I tested for it, and somehow or another, I squeaked my way in, and that started my career as a operator in D-Team.
Yeah.
And then I had to make a decision about, furthering my career. Nobody wants to leave SWAT.
No.
It is a great position. The skills you learn, the ability to refine your tactics and skills and specialized operations is fantastic. But a few of us made a decision to take the sergeant's test. And fortunately or unfortunately, I passed the test. And I remember my last day working SWAT driving home. And I cried on the way home.
I'll bet.
I was like,
I understand that.
Man, I think I screwed up.
Yeah.
Worked sergeant for about 3 years. And then the opportunity came up to, I worked sergeant I did patrol for 1 year. And then I worked a SPEW unit and crash a SPEW and special problems unit and a gang unit. And then I was selected to go back to Hollywood Vice as a supervisor there. And then from there, I was selected to go back into Metro. I went to Metro and did about a year or two in one of the platoons. And then I was walking down the hallway one day and the captain says, "Hey, Chuck, you're going to K9. I was like, yeah, I don't want to go to K9. I want to go to SWAT. He goes, no, you're going to K9. Hey, Cap, come on. He says, you don't have a choice. You're going to K9. Best decision made for me in my career.
Yeah.
Went to K9, did 6 years, worked with some super great people.
Yeah, you did. You had some
great
good
people.
ones there.
And eventually was brought back into D-Team as a supervisor, and that was my career.
Wow. It's great. I mean, so many specialized things that you did. Let's just touch on a couple things here. The Hollywood PED is the prostitute enforcement detail that you worked. You were one of the first people. That was a uniformed position most of the time, not always, where you supported Vice, right? I mean,
right.
That and that was a good way to get into Vice. And for those that don't know, Chuck's wife was concerned about all this prostitution stuff. Julia Roberts is not on Hollywood Boulevard, just so we're clear. Now, John Roberts, it might be there, and Joe Roberts is there quite a bit, but it's not like the movies.
On that point, Jack, I just want to interject because my wife had a similar concern that Chuck did. When I was working in Ontario, I was assigned to the eastern portion of Ontario for a while, and the eastern portion had the truck stops. And prostitutes love to hang out in truck stops. And I tell her, we're doing a lot of prostitute enforcement. And she was a bit concerned until she went on a ride along with me. And I introduced her to a few of the prostitutes that existed at the truck stop. And she goes, "Oh, I see what you're talking about now."
I got you, honey. Yeah, I did the same thing. Tracy got to see, because we took Polaroids of every single arrest, and I'd bring them home in a stack and say, "All right, yeah, here's last week's work." She go, "Ew." I go, yeah. It's not, Julia's not out there. She's not there, just so you know.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers. Thank you to our sponsor, Canyon Aero Connect. Canyon Aero Connect has been a trusted leader in airborne law enforcement communication since Paul Wolfsburg introduced the first flight phone in 1970. While our name has evolved, our commitment to innovation and quality remains strong. Contact us today at canyonaeroconnect.com to explore our latest mission-critical solutions. Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 160-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
Thank you for listening to the Hangar Z Podcast. This 3-episode series was a lot of fun to record. Chuck is a fantastic ambassador for our profession and has an amazing amount of real-world experience in a variety of positions, even into retirement. His customer perspective is important for all of us to hear. In my old unit, we always stressed the word support in Air Support Division. It's not about us. It's not our call. It's not our pursuit. We're there to support the customer in any way we can. To do that, we must talk to our customers and find out exactly what they need and what they don't need from us. The more we do that, the better service we provide. When that happens, we become essential to their mission and not just a luxury. You've heard that line before. Join us in pledging to do all we can in honoring our fallen brothers and sisters in law enforcement. Find a way to act on that pledge. Consider looking into the Police Unity Tour in your region. For more information, go to policeunitytour.com. Stay safe, and we will catch you the next time on the Hangar Z Podcast.